Let's get ready to rumble!
Come on, man. What's the big deal about Erik Morales taking this diuretic really and truly, you know? It's boxing, man. I love boxing, but don't over romanticize a sport where they punch people in their heads and then we're expecting these great morals, you know? And it was all these cash incentives, you know. What do you think Morales was thinking? He was thinking, well, boy, there's a good chance that Danny might be juicing. And I'm not just saying Danny, but any fighter. And Danny's young. So what? I'm going to take a chance that he's juicing, and he's younger than me. I'm going to take my old ass. I'm going out of the ring with nothing. That's probably the logic to it. You get what I'm saying? Plus the cash incentives if he wins. This is last chance saloon for this dude. You know, you have to realize, man, whether you're a young or old fighter, you've learnt your trade and you've got to a certain level. More than likely, this is going to be the only chance in your life where you can earn such money. You could look, life is, most of us ain't earning big money doing what we're doing now, let alone 3 or 4 times. It's not like we have the option of going job to job, career to career, and earn big sums of money, you know. It's a pressurized decision, you know. There's no doubt about that. And for all we know, he could have been juicing at the peak of his powers. So who knows? Who knows? As far as boxing goes, I think I just try to enjoy the event as it happens. But I've got to spend less time attaching certain ideals of greatness outside of what these guys do in the ring, you know. What are we going to do? We're just going to get mad every time someone gets busted. There's been people juicing in boxing from day. And if you support boxing and then people come up dirty and then you get moralistic, it makes you look a bit pretentious, really. Yeah? It's kind of like, I'll tell you what it's like. Say your brethren is a thief or he does checkbook and card or what we call bun and cheese in England, right? You know what I mean? And he's running a little scam on the book, yeah? And you're running with your brethren and then buy you our shoes, you know what I mean? Then buy you a watch, right? And you go clubbing and whatever, you drink and you smoke off your money, you know what I mean? You live all right off your money, illegal money, yeah? And then he gets busted and he has to give back the stuff. And somehow you get caught up in it because you're holding stolen merchandise. You're going to be in the police station screaming, "Oh, it wasn't me. I didn't have the card." But yo, it's you's got the gaiters on your feet. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's you's got the goose down leather jacket. It's you's got it. Yeah, you didn't do the crime, but you knew it was going on. So, you know, let's not get too moralistic on it. We're just a flawed specimen as humans, are we? You know what I mean? It's just as simple as that. I'm not going to weigh in too hard on him, you know what I mean? I'm not going to weigh in too hard. It's one of them things. I think we just have to assume that it's a dirty sport, you know what I mean? Really and truly. It's just a dirty sport. To a degree, we in wider society have moralized boxing until we've got the sport in a position that we can say we think this is acceptable and that's not acceptable. But in all truth, we're probably all a little fucked up supporting boxing for a various amount of reasons. Yeah, but you know, I'm not gonna just, you know what I mean, start philosophizing or, you know what I mean, start digging up a whole heap of semantics to keep batting on that one. But let's keep it moving, man. You know what I mean? Who's fighting tomorrow? You know what I mean? Enough said about the David Price fight last week. Let's face it. David Price was untested. Audley Harrison was in no fit condition to be billed as a boxer who's participating in a big fight. And that's the bottom line of it, despite whatever Chris Dixon is saying in here. which I'm not going to repeat because I don't want to immortalize the fight more than what has been done so by some of these rancid journalists. In the guest column is David Price. He says the way he's punching right now, it's frightening him. And, self-belief is what it's all about. And he should have a lot of self-belief about himself. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. When a right hand crashes off his chin, what happens? In the panel, we're asked if Tyson Fury and David Price were to fight today, who would win? Steve Cunningham favors David Price, says he's more technically schooled than Fury. He doubles up his jab and uses his height well. He reminds him of Vladimir Klitschko. John McDermott says whoever lands the biggest punch will win. And he thinks that would be Fury, but he says it is a 50-50 fight. Buddy McGirt, he says that Price sounds like a killer, and Fury is highly thought of too. It would be tough to pick a winner. Johnny Nelson says he couldn't pick between them, that Fury is unconventional and unpredictable, and he has a wild side and heart and aggression, whereas Price is more clean and polished. Which fight are you most looking forward to in Brooklyn this Saturday on October the 20th? Steve Cunningham says Peter Kid Chocolate Quillen against WBO middleweight champion Hassan. I'm not going to butcher his name. It's just spelled Njkam. Sounds like I better watch the fight and check how the commentators pronounce his name first before I come back with that one there. And Steve Cunningham also says, I've known Peter for a long time and it would be great to see him become a world champ. Well, hold on. He's still got to win the fight. That's what I'm saying. John McDermott, he's looking forward to seeing Danny Garcia and Eric Morales. And I'm not even going to read the rest of his comment until we find out the fallout of this diuretic drug that was found in Morales' system. Buddy McGirt is looking forward to the Quillen Hassan Ndam, I'm not going to butcher his name, match. McGirt will have a keen interest in the fight, seeing that he trains middleweight contender Matthew Macklin. Johnny Nelson is looking forward to the Randall Bailey Devin Alexander bout for the IBF welterweight title. Devin is fresher. Bailey has got the extra experience and the power. Randall can pull off the win. Yeah, that's the fight I'm looking forward to. But I am going to go for Alexander. I'm going to go for Alexander because I can't tip a man who's got a puncher's chance. Despite how great that punch is, I can't do that. I can't do that. Because from how I'm reading the fight, that's the only thing that Randall Bailey has going for him is the puncher's chance. And to me, at this level, I just can't tip a boxer to win a fight when he's gambling on landing one punch to do so. It's just not my style. It's not in my DNA to do that.
Rappers, you're playing with too close. I need some leeway, cause it's about time for the party together. Little bit hype and yup, this is a letter to the better.
Lorne Williams is going back in time. He picked up a copy, an old 1983 copy of Boxing Illustrated. He was amazed that the top 10 heavyweights were at number 1, Michael Dokes. At 2, Mike Weaver. At 3, Greg Page. At 4, Jerry Cortzia. At 5, Pinklon Thomas. At 6, Tim Witherspoon. At 7, Ronaldo Snipes. At 8, James Quick Tillis. At number 9, John Tate. And at number 10, Jerry Cooney. He remembers that in these days, people complained that the division was at its weakest ever. I suppose this was because after the generation of Ali, Foreman, Frazier, etc., that other than Larry Holmes, they all beat each other. Or he finally goes on to say, boy, do I wish that the heavyweight division was like that today. Yeah, grass is always greener on the other side. Somebody in the letters page from Scotland says Ricky Burns is the best Scottish boxer since Gary Jacobs. Yeah, I remember Gary Jacobs. He was half Jewish as well, Scottish. I remember him. from the 80s and maybe into the 90s. He fought Buddy McGirt. He took him the distance. The Larry Holmes debate carries on as Gary Rush, he challenges Jim McGowan's October the 4th letter saying that Larry has more than a great chance of defeating Mike Tyson at his peak, and he cites Holmes' victories over Shavers, Weaver, Snipes, and Witherspoon as examples to what he could have did to Iron Mike. He says Larry stands up there with the greats from any age in and outside the ring, and in years to come he will be recognized as one of the greatest and most underrated fighters of all time. John Ross, he's on the other side of the scale. He says Larry Holmes had a good jab, but I doubt he would have been a genuine 245 pounder. He was only 209 pounds when he won the WBC belt, and he was near 29 years of age at that time. He goes on to say that neither Muhammad Ali or George Foreman would have beaten the Klitschko's. In fact, there may never be another American heavyweight champion. A titleist perhaps, but nobody regarded as a true world champion. How times have changed. Patch Hammond, he says about a potential Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. He doesn't know if Mayweather's watertight defense can keep Pac-Man's lightning fists at bay, but if he can, and he lands his awesome counters, he could halt Manny Pacquiao late on. At Delboy Chisora, on the tweets, he's accusing old Fury Boy of dodging David Price. He says, "Stop ducking David Price." Adam Booth, who's neutral out of a possible Fury and Price fight, he thinks Fury will win it. At Eddie Hearn, he says that a David Price Matt Skelton fight is just a waste of time. It will be the same result as Price versus Harrison. Well, the only difference is that Matt will be on some do or die shit. So, I don't see him winning either, but he at least has that going for him. He'll have a go. I'm not reading out no more tweets because they're all about a mediocre fight that took place, a heavyweight fight, and it's getting overhyped. Audley Harrison, yeah, he weighed in with a tweet to congratulate David on his win. I was hoping that he wouldn't tweet anything. Don't give your approval of just the reason why. I'm not saying you shouldn't acknowledge what Price did, and I'm not saying no one should do that. I'm just thinking every time this guy tweets or speaks, he's gonna say, yeah. He's gonna fight again, and that just, I just it's just it's awkward talking about this guy's boxing career when he keeps saying he's gonna come back. I don't never advocate for fighters to retire. I'm not saying he should, but I just find it awkward to talk about what this guy's gonna do as a boxer. It's just, I don't know. It's a strange one. It's really strange. Read us, Paul. Who wins out of Fury and Price? David Price has 84% of the poll in his favor. Fury has 16%. Terry Bailey says Fury wins late on if he trains hard and keeps his hands up. Price is very good, but he has not faced decent opposition. Thomas Simpson, he says Price wins in 6 rounds. Tony Jupe, he says Price would win, but he still needs to have his chin tested for us to see how it copes. Fred Wild, Price shows class, power, and technique, and he has got far more of a boxing brain than Fury. The hit and miss parade. Predictably at number 1, David Price stormed to an emphatic victory over Audley Harrison, and his profile has never been higher. Wow, boxing news, man. How did David Price get higher than Brandon Rios, or Nonito Donaire, who came 2nd and 3rd on the hit parade? Matthew Hatton came in 4th. because he scored a rare stoppage win over Michael Lomax last week in Manchester. In the missed parade, we have Ronald Hearns, who got stopped again in a show at Michigan, which I believe his father Thomas promoted. At 3, Jose Benavides. He was given the fright of his life in the 8th and final round against Pavel Miranda. It looks like he survived it. I don't know any details about that fight at all. At number 2, boxing on UK TV. The quality built in Carson delivered in style, but the top-ranked show was not screened in Britain. Wow. Somebody told me that Box Nation had that top-ranked bill last week, and that's why I backed off them a little bit. I thought, okay, they're putting something on. If I had known they didn't have it, I would have bombarded them even harder. Maybe it's a good thing that I was told that. You know what I mean? So, okay, they didn't have them fights. And at number 1, in the miss section, is Audley Harrison. And I'm not even going to read why. Yeah. At number 1 in the miss section should be Box Nation. Audley doesn't put the fights on. They put the fights on. They knew all what I was saying weeks and months before this fight began. Why aren't they at number 1 in the miss section? I mean, I wonder if Boxing News are aware of this. I mean, it's always good to have a good whipping boy, but I wonder if Boxing News are aware of this. You had boxing on UK TV at number 2 in the miss section because they didn't deliver the top rank show. I would have thought that Box Nation's, in my opinion, false advertisement that Price and Harrison is a big fight would be more a case for that being number 2 in the miss list than them not delivering the top rank bill. People like a good whipping boy, and Audley is fitting the bill right now.
Count start. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's it.
So now we have the 10 count. This week is the best fighters of 1970. Matt Christie lists, let's say, a pound for pound rundown on the best fighters of that year. So the best fighters of 1970 were Muhammad Ali, who came back after his involuntary hiatus when he wouldn't fight in the Vietnam War. He came back and he defeated Jerry Quarry and Oscar Bonavena, and he had the whole world buzzing again. At number 2, we have Joe Frazier, who defeated Jimmy Ellis and Bob Foster, which were big wins. Frazier was champion by default, but regardless of that, he was in excellent form. At number 3, we have Jesus Castillo, who defeated Ruben Olivares, who is a ring legend. They also took into account that the first fight that he had with Olivares, I think in the same year, was a thriller, and he lost that by a split decision. And he also won a great victory over Rogelio Lara. At number 5, we have Emil Griffiths. A truly amazing 32-year-old is what Boxing News said. Griffiths outsmarted Dick Tiger, ended the unbeaten run of Tom Boggs, and finally outpointed Nate Collins, a top contender at the time. At number 5, we have George Foreman, who in 1970 he smashed George Chuvalo into submission and was just generally a fearsome force at that time. At number 6, we have Carlos Monzon, who took the title from Nino Benvenuti, an Italian. A very good fighter with Benvenuti, actually. And Monzon went on to be one of the greatest middleweight champions ever. At number 7 is Billy Backus, who caused a stunning upset by beating Jose Napoles. Billy Backus was the nephew of Carmen Basilio. At number 8, we have Herbito Salavaria, who won the WBC flyweight title by defeating Chachai Chionoi by a second round stoppage. It was one of the great victories of that year. At number 9, we have Ruben Olivares. His 2 wars against Castillo were considered the 2 best of the year, and as a result, Olivares made the list as one of the year's finest fighters. And at number 10, we have Adolf Pruitt, who was a light welterweight. He went 6-1 that year and was considered extremely unlucky to have dropped to the decision to the WBA light welterweight champion Niccolone Locci, who was an Italian. And I probably butchered that guy's name, but that's all good. I was just looking through that, I just made a few observations. Like, boxing has a lot of unwritten rules that build up a fighter's resume. Like, Jesus Castillo. Part of the reason he got into the top 10 best fighters of 1970 was because he gave a credible performance in losing a split decision. And he did lose the fight. It was a tight fight, but it was nowhere near a robbery. In other sports, if you give a credible performance, okay, here's the example. Tyson Gay in the Olympics. The man run, was it 9.80 or something like that? Yeah? Right? That would have won the Olympics in so many other years. But he came in 4th place. He gets nothing for an exceptional performance. But Castillo actually gets ranked on the strength of a loss, although he did have some good victories in that year, in saying that. So, there's always a balance to draw. And I'm not complaining about it, it's just an observation I'm making about boxing. Another point is the Boxing News said a truly amazing 32-year-old when they was talking about Emil Griffiths in 1970. You wouldn't see that headline now. 32 is a baby these days. I mean, people talk about David Price like he's some young prospect. The guy is basically 30 years of age right now. But fighters, they wear a lot longer these days, They preserve a lot better. And that's just due to them not fighting so much as they used to. And sparring so much out of necessity. And once again, I'm not making a judgment call if that's better or worse. It's just that's just a phenomenon that's a product of our times, Just like Erik Morales is a product of our times. That's why we shouldn't demonize him so badly. I'm not saying he shouldn't be chastised, you know what I mean, for cheating, but we have to keep things in perspective to a degree. Former European heavyweight champion Robert Helenius will return to the ring in Finland on November the 10th. No opponent is yet decided. Jamaican featherweight Nicholas Walters, who is 21-0, will face Darlis Prescott for the vacant WBA featherweight title. The bout will be held in Kingston, Jamaica. Okay. Don't see too much title fights being held in old Jamaica. That's a good look. That's on December the 13th. Mike Tyson has been granted a visa to enter Australia. A week after Australia's neighbouring country, New Zealand, denied the former champion entry into their country due to his past convictions. Chavez Jr. has had his Nevada state license suspended pending a hearing after he tested positive for the hydro. They didn't say hydro. He could be fined for his entire $3 million purse. Okay, I thought it was a 20 grand fine. And he faces an extended ban as this is his second positive test. They must be taking the diuretic that he got caught with a few years back. Apparently, Old Fury, the British, was the British champion, the Irish champion, he gave up all his belts to, I don't know what strategy him and Mick Hennessy have. Maybe they know. I don't get it. But apparently he really wants this David Price fight, and he's really angry. But what does that mean? As I said before, I think fighters and promoters should be discouraged from shouting out fighters when there's not even the remote bit of negotiation that's been done. And, it's like they're talking about they're negotiating for the Amir Khan Kell Brook fight. Well, really? I'm really confused with boxing. Like, Robert Guerrero is supposed to be facing Andre Berto, but I keep hearing Andre Berto is fighting K9 Bundridge, So I don't know what's happening there. Odlanier Solis was to be taking on Thomas Adamic, but the contracts were not signed in time. Boxing's just, I don't know. It's really ridiculous. They need to make a certain quota of opponents that top ranked fighters have to fight in that year. That's what they need to do. You know, I just don't think promoters should have so much sway in cancelling fights and calling out fighters saying they're ducking each other when there's nothing substantiated on paper. You know, that's just messy, tacky. I was thinking about it the other day. They could make 2 Super Sixes every single division. So let's take the super middleweight division. All right, we take 12 fighters. All right, you got Ward, Froch, Kessler, Abraham, Darrell, Jermaine Taylor. We throw Butte in there, and we just find another 6 more fighters. The top 12. The top 12. Take the whole top 10, then another 2. Yeah. I don't know, you can either draw lots, or if there's a more scientific method, you know, right? Split them into 2 groups. The winner of each group, obviously, fights in the final. You know, so that way, all the top boxers have no excuse that they're not facing top opposition. Yeah? Obviously, you have the option to opt out. Yeah? And they can probably work something out if you're going to move up a division and fight, or move down and fight a champion at another weight. There's ways to do this in a more, I don't know, cohesive manner, you know, than just, we offered Carl Froch thing. And, you know, Carl Froch never hinted to anyone. When did Carl Froch hint to Frank Warren that he was going to move up to light heavyweight? You're saying you offered him $1 million or £1 million. Well, what's the point of that? Carl Froch never expressed any desire. I've never heard Carl Froch say, I'm struggling to make the weight. Daniel Gill takes on Anthony Mundine in Australia. Manny Pacquiao's just had an extension added to his contract with Top Rank, so he's going to be under Bob Arum's thumb for life. You're not a boss, Manny. You're not a boss. Vladimir Klitschko takes on Marius Wok. And apparently he's not bringing a new trainer on board, even though Emmanuel Stewart will not be available in the preparations for this fight. And it seems he's saying that he's doing this out of loyalty for Emmanuel Stewart. Okay. Danny Williams says he's retiring after a really timid performance, it has to be said, last time out in Europe. But he said he's retiring before, so I don't know how real that is. Steve Cunningham is talking about how he's going to be pushing the limits and testing himself at heavyweight. Well, apparently, isn't he supposed to be fighting Thomas Adamic? Which would be a good match. It would be a good match. I have to say, Odlanier Solis is one lazy dude, man. He just doesn't seem like he's bothered about it. You know, I don't like when fighters do things like when they say, no, I don't watch other boxers. You know, no, I don't focus on boxing outside train. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. I don't get how can you build any kind of ideology of greatness, of what it takes to be a great champion, if you haven't studied what the past greats have done, or even what the present day greats are doing. I don't get that. I'm not saying you have to emulate that, but how do you get any standing? It's like, how could you be Malcolm X if you didn't study Marcus Garvey? You know? If you didn't study the struggle before you. You know what I'm saying? It's a strange one. I don't get that. I don't get that train of thought one bit. I don't get it. And really, and when you think about it, even if he means what he's saying, at least pretend that you have an interest in the sport, because we're saying now, well, boy, what am I going to buy your pay-per-view for? What am I going to go see your fight for? I mean, you don't even care about the sport. Kevin Satchell, the Commonwealth flyweight champion, who I was watching while I'd done a video last week, as he took apart Chris Edwards, you know, and He's added the British title. He's took Chris Edwards' British title to add to his Commonwealth belt. So, yeah, good performance. He took him out by the 6th round. I haven't really seen nobody beat up Chris Edwards like that. So, well done. Well done. John Lewis Dixon, he outpointed Shane McPhilbin, who, Shane is very crude. He's a brave lad, but he's very, very crude. It has to be said, you know. Adil Anwar, he won a British Eliminator against Del Miles for the British light welterweight title, a split decision over 12. Matt Skelton was his normal rugged self as he took apart some European fighter named Gospic. James DeGill looks like he's lost a step and he needs to get that back by fighting regular. And I don't know if I'm delving too hard into it. I think his physical conditioning could be better. I don't know why. His body language and just the actual tone of his body just I don't know. The guy he fought last week, you know, he was a tough guy. He was a French champion. Let's not get that misconstrued. But all he was doing was tucking his chin in, coming forward, throwing shots. He wasn't even the trajectory of the straightness of punches just wasn't even there. And he didn't set up no angles. His jab was really non-existent, and DeGill struggled with it. He struggled. And I'm sorry, I thought there was a stage that maybe he could have defeated Carl Froch in a battle of British super middleweights. But right now, I'm just miles away of thinking of putting him in there with him right now. I have to say that. Chris Eubanks, who looked very good against the Latvian. Chris Eubanks Jr. doesn't have a lot of power in his shots at the moment, but I'm not really sure if that's a problem. I'm not sure if that's a problem because he's still very young, and I'm not saying he's going to get this big surge of power, but power is not always just directly the correlation of shoulder strength. It's in boxing, power is like displayed in various ways, like stopping people. You can put your punches together well. You can time a man without him seeing the punch, you know, and a lot of that shit is just experience. So I think Chris Eubank Jr. is a very good prospect at this stage, but obviously there's a long way to go. Brandon Rios and Mike Alvarado, and to all the people who say I'm too hard on Brandon, no, I'm not too hard. I tipped him to win. And look. I know that he is not totally defenseless in the ring. I'm aware of that, yeah? He keeps his guard up so he doesn't take a lot of shots on the jaw or the chin. But at the same time, the amount of punches he takes high up on his head, he's not blocking all them shots that are aimed towards the top of his head. He's catching a lot of them. And despite all the defects we pick out in Pacquiao's style, I just have this nagging feeling that it's almost going to be a decapitation putting him there with Pacquiao. I don't know, man. When I heard that fight was in the air, I just thought about it. I said, "Woo, we'll see, we'll see." Boxing News are tipping Kell Brook to win by a late round stoppage against the Argentinian welterweight Saldivia. They also think that Kenny Anderson can beat Robin Reed inside the distance in a super middleweight contest. I'm not so sure of that. Paulie Malignaggi defends against Pablo Cesar Cano. The Boxing News doesn't say this because they don't have the hindsight that I had from either Thursday or Friday. I think this will be a non-title fight. Didn't Cano fail to make the weight or something? Hassan Dam Gkam, that's what I'm going to call him. Yeah, I know I'm butchering it, but I have to say something. You know what I mean? He takes on Peter Kid Chocolate Quillen for the WBO middleweight title tonight. That's on this Brooklyn bill, which is going to be quite something. They got a really good bill here. Randall Bailey versus Devin Alexander. And Danny Garcia versus Eric Morales, which is going to be a non-title fight as well. And I believe that Garcia versus Morales is a pick'em fight. Morales is very experienced, man. he's gonna suss a lot of weaknesses and things that he knows he should have picked up in the first fight, you know. And it's gonna be a tough battle. Don't look at the Amir Khan knockout too much in this fight. That's what I'm suggesting to you guys. Cruiserweights. World rankings according to Boxing News. Marco Huck is at number 1. Juan Pablo Hernandez is at number 2. Ola Afolabi is at number 3. Denis Lebedev is at number 4. And Christoph Wodlazik is at number 5. And Guillermo Jones is at number 6. Latif Coyote is at number 7. Troy Ross is at number 8. Danny Green is at number 9. And Matthias Mastanak is at number 10. So we know that Huck has beaten Afolabi twice. Very tight decisions they were, but nevertheless he's beaten twice. The Lebedev decision was very controversial as well, but he's beat them two in the list. Juan Pablo Hernandez, he's beaten Troy Ross, and obviously Cunningham has moved up. Ola Afolabi has beaten nobody in the list. He's at number 3. Denis Lebedev has beaten nobody in the list. Christoph Wodlazik, he obviously knocked out Danny Green. Guillermo Jones, who still owns the WBA belt, he has no names on the list either. Latif Coyote, no names on the list. Troy Ross, he lost a very disputed, in my opinion, the disputed loss to Hernandez. He has no names. Danny Green has no names on the list. And the Pole Masternak, who comes in at number 10, he has no names either. So that completes the cruiserweight rankings.
I'm catching the flashback.
This week in 1970, Danny McLinden made a statement when he flattened Moses Harrell in the first round at the World Sporting Club in Mayfair. Harrell had previously taken Joe Bugner the distance just a year before that. Carmelo Bussi of Italy was world light middleweight champion, but he took a fight in South Africa against the local middleweight title holder Pierre Fourie. That fight would go ahead at Ellis Park in Johannesburg, having been put back 7 days. The delay actually helped the South African, as Alan Towie, his trainer, said that gave him an extra week to get his man in peak condition for the most important bout of his career. It was a smart move for Towie, as Fourie, the South African, went on to win a 10-round points decision.
With a right, left, you're toothless. And then you say, God damn, they ruthless.
They've started this fight club thing in the UK where they have boxers, and the Boxing News editor Chris Dixon and Matt Christie, they all join up. I think they're going to host it at different venues. They just discuss boxing, really, you know, like the success of the British Olympic team. Talked a lot about David Price and stuff like that, really. That will probably develop as it develops. The most eye-catching thing, and I'm gonna spell it out because it's kind of the theme of this Boxing News report this week. Just gonna touch the David Price and Audley Harrison fight. Frank Maloney admitted that Harrison had played his part in selling the show. Having ridiculed Audley in the past, Frank Maloney said, "I criticized him because he tried to break the mold of promoters and went and did everything himself," said Maloney. "And he paid the penalty for it, and it didn't help boxing." You see how the promoters try to protect their circle. Everybody ridiculed Audley, saying he couldn't do this, he couldn't do that, you know. And as we see now, there's a whole load of fighters these days who just have more control of their careers. That's why I was shocked that, well, I wasn't shocked that Pacquiao signed an extension to his top rank contract when he really doesn't need to do that. I mean, it's like if you're doing music today, giving up your publishing is ridiculous when it's so cheap to record music, you know? letting them take thousands and how much thousands out of your budget to record music when it's so cheap to kit studios out. It's just like boxing, you know. There's some stuff that you're going to have to, a lot of stuff that you're going to have to seek out a professional to help you with. But you can hire solicitors. Most of that is just legal stuff. You can hire decent solicitors. You don't need to just give away all that control like that. You don't need to. But that's what they tried to do with Audley back in the day. Like, they tried to sow the seeds of doubt in his mind that all you are is a piece of meat. You just go in the ring and fight. And look, Audley didn't make it to elite level. But yo, he's took some big purses out of the game, you know? And as far as I know, he's quite comfortable in California, you know? Can't be mad at that. But yeah, like I said, that's why Sky Sports dispensed with Ricky Hatton Promotions. You know, they just want to keep their circle small. That's why Steve Bunce was so vitriolic to UK Wing Chun student, because he's probably thinking, he's trying to take my job, but you know, you don't have no right to your position of power just because you've been doing that for years. You know, great empires of fought. You don't have no right to them things. Yeah, unless what you're doing is innovative and it's pushing the envelope each year. Because yo, there's always younger cats coming up with more vigor, and while you're just comfortable in your slippers, these guys, you know, they want to shake shit up. So the old boy network, which is still hurting boxing, and you can see by stuff that people like Eddie Hearn, I'm gonna say Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren having this war of words together. You know, the WWE, nobody wants to see you guys. I wonder if you realize that. Yeah, nobody actually wants to see you. I mean, we don't care if we don't see Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren. All we want to see is the fights. No, but who cares? Who does anyone care tonight if they watch Kell Brook tonight and they don't see Eddie Hearn ringside? Does anybody care about that? Or maybe Eddie Hearn's wife and his kids. But nobody cares. You know, the way they're coming out, oh, we tried to do this, and Frank Warren is this, and Eddie Hearn is this. Look, you guys, go in the boardroom, right? Make some decent fights, and come out and announce them. Same with you, Frank Maloney, yeah? Take off the ridiculous Union Jack suit, yeah? Stop the car salesman tactics, yeah? It's tacky. It's tacky, yeah? Be less visible and put better fights on. Less talking, great fights. That'd be a great mantra for a television network who's indulging in boxing. I'm saying, you know? You see, and look, Don King, he had the big hairdo and all that. No doubt about that. Yeah, Don, I mean, was bigger than probably most of the fighters in the world. But he delivered big bills. Don delivered big bills and big fights. Right? I'm going to leave a video in the inbox of some of Don King's cards. You'll have to watch the whole video to get to it. In the 90s. Yeah? I don't think I even went through the 80s. This is just the 90s. Yeah? So yeah, look, it's just like Floyd Mayweather, Adrian Broner. Cool, yeah. They put on a show for us. Extracurricular stuff outside the ring. But they put it down in the ring too. As soon as that overtakes the fighting, not such a good look no more. But yo, that's enough guessing. So I'm going to put that video in the link, and I'm going to say that's all, folks. Peace. Uh.